So I have this little project today. Let's see if I can show it to you. Can you see that? Front wheel bearing shot. Customers complaining that they got a roaring noise in the front. When I drove it home, yeah, you could hear the thing roaring like crazy. I could hear it. It was a wheel bearing on the left front. This is a 2006 Kia Rio, Rio 5, and I'm going to replace the front wheel bearing on it. Okay, I should have turned on a video a long time ago, done some time lapse. As you can see, I removed the steering knuckle from the vehicle. That's pretty straightforward on this Kia. Just a few bolts and it comes out pretty easily. Then I pressed apart the hub. This is the hub right here with the outer bearing race still stuck to it. You can see that race is just nasty. That's rust and grease and what have you. And then there's the bearings right there. Some of them fell right out after I took that. The cage, it's just a plastic cage that's in these things. And that's all falling apart. I'm sure the race in there is just nasty. And so I'm going to knock that apart. I think this is OTC. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's OTC. It's a hub tamer kit. As you can see, it's a little bit rusty and crusty. Been sitting under my toolbox for some time. It does get used. You can see with that anvil right there that I've beat on it pretty good. I used to work on Kia vehicles at a dealership and did wheel bearings on the front of the Sedonas, the minivan that Kia had. That's why that's really just beat to death. It's not a bad kit. I have a love of hate relationship with it. It gets the job done, but I think it's more work than it really needs to be. So I'll get you set up so I can do some time lapse and show you what that's all about. Getting this bearing out of the knuckle assembly, and then we got to put the new bearing in. The first order of business though is going to be getting that snap ring right there, trying to get that out. This one doesn't look too bad. It might come out okay. But some of them I've done just, you end up just doing everything, replacing the knuckle and everything, because that won't come out. It's just so rusted in there. Korean cars tend to rust quite a bit. So, okay, enough of that. Well, that went a whole lot easier than I thought. Wasn't rusted in there too bad. The snap ring came right out. So on to getting the rest of that bearing out of there. What I'm going to do to get the rest of that bearing out of there is knock those bearings themselves out of there. That'll leave me with the inner races, the actual bearing housing. And I'll take a air hammer to that and knock that out. I found that's probably the easiest way, as opposed to setting it up on a press and pressing it out. So as you can see, I got a little bit smarter from a bit before, where I had the thing down on the floor, trying to do it that way and hold it against my legs. Works smarter, I guess. So we'll put you back on fast motion, and then I'm going to drive this race out of here. That may not look easy. It wasn't. But I think it's easier than on a press. Shot myself in the leg with a little hardened bearing material, but I'll survive. That's the bearing. Look how nasty that is. Well, it's just not me wailing on it. So this thing's been making noise for some time. And so we'll get a new one stuck in. Okay, I got the bearing kind of sort of sitting in there, and now I'm going to set up the tool to pull it in the rest of the way. Okay, so the bearing is in, and the snap ring is in. Luckily I have these great big snap ring pliers right here to help put that ring in. Otherwise it would have been a struggle. And then you should be able to just go and set one end in and then work the snap ring in. But when you have a special tool like that, it makes it a whole lot easier. So now I have the hub installed. The way this tool works is you just take this long bolt with a big, let's call it a washer on the other end, big nut, put that in there, and you just kind of sandwich the whole thing together. I use an impact and a wrench, works pretty well. You can do the same thing with the press if you have access to a press. If you don't have a press, then one of these special tools would be in order. Like I said, this whole kit, I'm sure, was pretty expensive when I bought it, but it's helped me do this job any number of times. If you're a do-it-yourselfer at home, yeah, I don't think this kind of job is for you. I would suggest taking the hub off if you can, with the whole steering knuckle assembly right here. Take that off, and if you know somebody that has a press, or maybe a machine shop, some of the auto parts stores will do press work, something like that. Go to a car dealership and throw a few bucks at one of the techs and have them press it apart for you. You just never know. So the next step is going to be putting the hub, the whole knuckle assembly back onto the vehicle. Okay, I'm going to get you all set up, and you can watch me put this steering knuckle on. Super easy. Kia cars and Hyundai cars are super easy to work on. Basically, it's going to be, see if I can get this, show you properly. 2 bolts here, 2 bolts here. The axle goes through the center of the hub. That's it. You know, just tighten everything down and put the brakes back on and go from there. So, gonna do it real fast and have fun. Okay, there we go. All back together. I don't know if you saw it, but I was just struggling with these two ball joint bolts down here. I just couldn't get the angle on them. So I ended up taking these two bolts up here loose from the strut, and so I could tilt out the knuckle, got those bottom bolts lined up, tightened up, and I could just go in through the top with the other ones. So my number one rule with working on a vehicle is you just got to be smarter than what you're fighting. And when things start fighting, we gotta look for a different way to go about doing it. You may have noticed that that sway bar link is loose. That's because I'm going to replace the sway bar links on that. That's super easy, super boring. It's just one nut up here, one nut down there. Sway bar link comes off, put the new one on, and go from there. The only thing that really hangs you up is sometimes they just spin, and you got to get vice grips out. Worst case scenario, you got to get the cutting tool out and cut the things off, and it can be a hassle. But these came apart, at least that one nut came off pretty easy, so that shouldn't be a problem. One other problem you might run across are these stinking screws right here. These rotors have been replaced, the screws have been replaced before. These things seize up. And if you don't have an impact driver, that's this little gizmo right here. If you don't have one of these, get yourself one. This should be in your toolkit at home to help you break bolts loose and that kind of thing. Something that happens with, especially with Phillips heads and that kind of thing, is that the bit of the screwdriver will want to walk out of the slots right there. And a wise old tech taught me one time, you take a little valve lapping compound, you can get that at any parts store, and put that on the tip of your screwdriver, and that'll let that screwdriver bit bite into those screws, and it should come right out. If it doesn't, if these screws go and strip out on you, your only choice there is to either drill them out, or I've had a lot of success taking an air chisel and walking them out. So there's some fun facts for you right there. There you go, guys. Wheel bearing, front wheel bearing, 06 Kia Rio. A lot of these cars are just the same, where you got to take that knuckle apart, press or pound out that wheel bearing, and go back in reverse order as it says in like every manual ever ordered, everywhere. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. This definitely isn't my bleeping bike. This isn't even my bleeping car. But there you go. So, until next time, remember, we're not promised tomorrow. Get out there, live a life, touch some lives, create a legacy. Until next time.